Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the sources, pull out the key insights, and basically give you a shortcut to understanding complex topics. Today, we're looking at an animal that's, well, pretty much the definition of chill, the sloth. If you ever wondered, why on earth are they so incredibly slow, then you're in the right place. We're going beyond that lazy stereotype today. We want to uncover the really surprising reasons, biological, ecological, even microscopic, behind how they live.
Yeah,
our mission is to sort of unpack the science and reveal this hidden world they carry around.
and we'll be doing that by drawing on quite a range of scientific work, things like physiological studies, ecological surveys. They really shed some fascinating light on why sloths operate on a timescale that's just, well, totally different from almost any other mammal. It's a deep dive into extreme adaptation, really.
Okay, so let's get right into it then. The big question, why are sloths so famously slow? Is it, just how they are, their personality, or is there something deeper biological going on?
Oh, it's absolutely not laziness. Not in the way we think of it. No, it's an extreme evolutionary strategy. It's all about conserving energy. Sloths have some of the slowest metabolisms known in mammals. I mean, get this. The brown-throated three-toed sloth, Bradypus variegatus, it holds the record, the absolute slowest metabolism documented for any mammal. Even Hoffman's two-fingered sloth, Trull, it's like number 3 on that list. Super slow. Their basal metabolic rates, that's their energy use just at rest, are way, way lower than you'd expect for an animal their size. Often just 40 to 60% of what the scientific rule, Kleber's rule, would predict.
Wow, 40 to 60%. That's incredibly low. It makes you wonder how they even function. What's driving that? Is it just like a preference for taking it easy?
Well, it links directly back to what they eat and how their bodies work. Their diet, they're primarily folivores. That means they eat leaves, almost exclusively leaves. And leaves, well, they're not exactly energy bars, are they? Very poor nutrition, low energy. Some leaves might even have toxins, which means they need a really slow digestion process to handle them. So this super low energy food forces their bodies to run on, minimal power. And another huge factor is temperature regulation, thermoregulation. Sloths are heterothermic. Their body temperature isn't stable like ours. It fluctuates between about 28 and 35 degrees Celsius, closely following the outside temperature. Plus, they don't have much muscle mass, which means they can't generate much body heat internally.
Right. Low metabolism, not much muscle. So they don't produce much heat. How does being so sensitive to temperature make them so, slothful?
It means they really can't handle big temperature swings. They're especially vulnerable to cold. For example, the three-toed sloth, Bradypus, it needs things warmer. Its thermoneutral zone, the temperature where it's comfortable, doesn't go below 24 degrees Celsius. The two-toed sloth, Tullowipus, can handle it a bit cooler, down to maybe 18 degrees.
Okay.
So this shows that three-toed sloths really need those warmer climates. When it gets colder, they become even less active. It's a behavior to save energy, reduce heat loss. It makes total sense why you only find them in warm neotropical forests. And if you look at how they spend their day, the numbers are pretty clear. Brown-throated sloths, they spend almost half their day just resting, 48%. Feeding is only about 12%, grooming another 12%, just watching things is 17%, and actual moving, just over 7% of their time.
Only 7%?
Yeah, so that slowness isn't a flaw, it's a highly sophisticated survival strategy perfected over millions of years.
Okay, so we've got this picture of incredible internal adaptations for saving energy. But what really blows my mind is how this slow lifestyle creates a whole world on the sloth. That green tint you sometimes see in photos, it's not just dirt, is it?
No, definitely not dirt. That green color actually comes from algae, living algae, growing right in the sloth's fur. Their hair is unique. It has these tiny cracks and grooves in it, which are just perfect little channels for algae to grow in. Scientists have identified different types, like trichophilous algae, making a home right there on the sloth.
Algae living in their fur, is that just for camouflage, helping them blend in? Or is there, something more going on between the sloth and the algae?
It seems to be more complex than just hiding. There's this interesting hypothesis, maybe sloths actually eat the algae, to get some extra nutrients lacking in their leafy diet. And maybe some special moths that also live on the sloth help the algae grow by adding nitrogen to the fur.
Wow, moths helping algae grow on a sloth so the sloth can eat it. That's intricate.
It is, but it's still a hypothesis. Seeing sloths actually licking and eating the algae is, well, pretty rare. It's also possible they just pick up algae from tree trunks or branches they touch. But regardless, sloths really are like these walking ecosystems, or maybe moving islands of biodiversity. The key thing is, this whole community on their fur isn't just passive. It seems to be an active, interconnected part of how the sloth survives, maybe helping with digestion, maybe camouflage. We're still figuring it out. And it's not just algae. They're fur hosts, fungi, bacteria, loads of different arthropods.
A mobile ecosystem. I love that. So what else is living in this furry neighborhood? Can you give us some examples?
Oh, absolutely. There are certain types of scarab beetles, for instance. Names like Euroxys gorgon and Trichyla medici. They live deep in the fur, especially on three-fingered sloths. And get this, researchers have found up to 1,000 beetles on a single sloth.
1,000 beetles?
Yeah.
Seriously, what are they all doing?
They're called phoretic coprophages. Basically, it means they hitch a ride, and their babies, and maybe the adults too, eat sloth dung. They don't seem to hurt the sloth at all. They might even help out maybe by breaking down waste or keeping parasite numbers down.
So the sloth is like a mobile home and restaurant for these beetles.
Kinda, yeah. Free ride, dung buffet. Not a bad deal for the beetles. Then you have the sloth moths, mostly in the genus Cryptosis, like Cryptosis caulolepi. They're another name is resident. When the sloth makes its weekly trip down to the forest floor to defecate.
Which is a whole other weirdly fascinating thing.
Right. Well, when it does, the female moths hop off the fur and lay their eggs in the fresh dung. The larvae hatch, feed on the dung, grow up, and then the new adult moths fly up into the canopy to find another sloth to live on.
Okay, so the moths get transport, maybe some protection on the sloth?
Exactly, but that whole three-way thing, the moth, the algae, the sloth, that potential mutual benefit, it's still debated by scientists. We need more research. And there's fungi, too, often similar to fungi found inside plants, suggesting the sloths pick them up from their environment. Plus, other tiny things like euglenozoans, amoebozoans, their roles are mostly unknown still. It's a whole miniature world.
Okay, so with these incredible energy-saving bodies and these bustling fur ecosystems, what does an actual day look like for a sloth? Where do they hang out in this slow, deliberate life?
Well, they're almost entirely arboreal tree dwellers. They live way up in the canopy of neotropical forests, Central and South America. You typically find them anywhere from, say, 5 up to maybe 30 meters high in the trees. They use different trees, but the brown-throated sloths, they really seem to prefer Cecropia trees for feeding. These are what they call pioneer trees. They're important because they tend to keep their leaves and flower year-round, so a reliable food source.
Right, constant buffet.
Pretty much. And while we think of them as totally still, they do move, just, slowly. They've been clocked moving up to 0.5 kilometer per hour in short bursts, believe it or not.
0.5 kilometer an hour. Speedy for a sloth. Now, are they all equally slow? Or are there differences, say, between the two-fingered and three-fingered types?
Good question. Yes, there are definite differences in how they move. The two-fingered sloths, Chalupus hoffmanni, they tend to be a bit more active, more mobile. Over half of them travel 38 meters or more in a day. And they usually don't stay in the same tree night after night. Less than 10% do. They're also mostly nocturnal active at night.
Okay, so the two-fingered ones move around more, mostly at night. What about the three-fingered ones?
The three-fingered sloths, like Bradypus variegatus, they're much more sedentary, stick in the muds, relatively speaking. Something like 89% of them travel less than 38 meters a day, and they're 4 times more likely to just stay put in the same tree for days on end. And unlike the nocturnal two-fingered ones, they're ephemeral. Yeah, it means they're active sort of sporadically on and off throughout both the day and the night. And their reproduction also involves close contact, which is key for passing on those fur passengers. They mate either with the male on a female's back or face-to-face. Copulation itself only lasts maybe 7 minutes or so. Then the female gives birth to just one baby up in the canopy, and that newborn clings tightly to mom's belly for like 5 to 7 months straight.
Wow, constant contact for months.
Exactly. And that long period of close physical touch is super important. It's how all those epibionts, the algae, the insects, the fungi, get passed from mother to baby, generation after generation. So their slow movement, their weekly trip down the tree, their constant rubbing against bark and leaves, it all helps them pick up and spread this amazing biodiversity living in their fur.
So it really sounds like this incredibly unique, slow lifestyle, which is clearly a huge advantage for survival in their world, also makes them maybe especially vulnerable when things change, like with modern environmental problems.
Absolutely, that's a critical point. Their low vigility, fancy term for just not moving around much or dispersing easily, makes them highly susceptible to things like forest fragmentation, cutting down forests, breaking them into pieces. They really struggle to cross big gaps in the trees. If there's a road or a clearing, it's a major barrier. So human land use changes hit them hard.
Right, they can't just pack up and move easily.
Not at all. So conservation really needs to focus on keeping forests connected, corridors, pathways. Interestingly, research also shows that these mixed-use areas, landscapes that have a mix of houses, farms, and patches of secondary forests can actually be quite valuable. They can act as important refuges, provide resources, kind of complementing the big protected parks. For example, the maned sloth, its range is really affected by temperature changes through the seasons. And while it loves these really wet, dense rainforests, umbropholous dense forests, those habitats are often severely broken up now.
When you step back and look at the whole story of the sloth, what's the biggest takeaway for you? What really stands out?
I think for me, it's how sloths just completely challenge our usual ideas about what it means to be successful, what it means to thrive. That laziness we perceive, it's not a weakness. It's this incredibly complex, interconnected system of biology and ecology working together. They show us that being slow, really slow, can lead to a totally different kind of success, a really rich form of life, this complex, moving ecosystem that benefits the sloth and maybe even helps the wider forest. It's just a different definition of efficiency.
So the next time any of you see a picture, maybe a video, of a sloth just hanging there or munching slowly on a leaf, remember there's a whole universe living in its fur. And there's this powerful evolutionary story behind every single deliberate, slow movement. You'll know why these creatures that seem lazy are actually true masters of survival in their own way.
Yeah, and maybe it leaves us with a question, doesn't it? In our world, which is always pushing for faster, more efficient, what can we actually learn from the sloth? From its incredibly slow pace. Maybe not just about survival, but about, fostering these rich, interdependent communities, finding a different kind of balance in our own complicated lives and ecosystems. It's definitely something to think about.